is Emily Iannielli, and I am a male to female transgender woman. Um, Many people have asked me why I decided to transition, and you know, it's not such an easy question to answer. When I say transition, or when they ask me transition, they mean why did I decide to transition from male to female, boy to girl, man to woman. And for me, it's very simple. I knew from a very young age that I struggled with my gender. I couldn't put it into words, but I knew that I was very different from boys in general, and I was very much a girl in how I felt about myself, and I knew at such a young age that I was supposed to be a girl, and I started, wearing early on in my childhood dresses from my sister's closet when I could get my hands on one. That wasn't very often though, because of the age gap. My age and my size was different from my sister's. However, when I could try on a dress, if it fit, I would wear it, and it made me feel good. The persistence to dress was pervasive throughout my life. I was a cross-dresser from day one, since I put on my very first dress that belonged to my sister, and I hadn't stopped cross-dressing ever since. However, there were times when I purged, and I tried to stop the compulsion to dress, and purging isn't something that I suggest trans girls do. For me, I was very upset afterwards, but I thought that by doing so, I would, stop my feelings. But it only made me feel worse, actually. And it's hard when you're dealing with such a emotional issue, and it's quite hard to communicate it. Unfortunately, we live in a society where certain things of why we feel different are hard to understand. Certainly, when I was growing up, my generation, I had nobody to really reference to. I was essentially on my own, and I felt very isolated, and I didn't really know how to really speak about it. I didn't really speak about it, to be honest with you. I never told anybody. I wanted to tell my parents, but I wasn't very comfortable, and I didn't want to burden them with my issue, and I quite couldn't find the right words to tell them anyway. How do you tell someone, especially your parents, that you are born a boy, but you really feel more like you're a girl? I didn't know how to deal with that, to be quite honest with you. All I knew was that I was different, and it scared me, and I didn't know how to relate to others. I had trouble relating to the girls. I certainly had trouble relating to the boys, and I tried my best to fit in, and I did the things that boys were supposed to do. I participated in baseball. I was pretty good actually, and it was through my neighbor who encouraged me to play, because he knew I was a shy kid, and he took an interest in me, and he taught me some fundamentals of baseball. And I remember we used to have a catch, and he suggested that I try out for the Little League team. And I was very excited because I made the team, and I participated, and I felt like I belonged for the first time. And it made me feel happy. It didn't take away my feelings, however. I still struggled with that. And I also used to still wear girls' underwear underneath my clothes, even my baseball uniform. So I didn't stop the dressing up whenever I could. It was very infrequently, however, because I just didn't have the availability to access girl clothes. And as I grew, I tried to fit in as a normal, typical boy growing up. I remember when I hit 13, well actually 12, was when I started doing some research, and I would go to the library, and I remember reading about a transsexual, and that kind of awakened me and made me realize how I truly felt about me as a person. And when I read that story, I identified completely, and I knew in my heart what I knew all along, that I was a girl trapped in a boy's body. I was a transsexual, and when I knew that, it scared me, and I didn't have any way to get help. I didn't tell anybody. It was my secret, and I had to live with that. And I had guilt, I had shame. I couldn't quite get my head wrapped around it. How could a boy be emotionally developing as a girl? How come I felt like a girl, yet I had a boy body? Why did I think more like a girl, even though I was supposed to live as a boy? I couldn't quite understand. It didn't make any sense to me. And I tried my best to deal with it, and it was very hard. And I had times where I just cry at night underneath my covers and think, oh, how wonderful it would have been if God could change me overnight into a girl. And I would actually pray for that to happen. But when I woke up in the morning, I was very sad, because the reality was that was never going to happen, and I had to accept that. When I came to realize that I was transsexual, I tried not to let it control me. I tried to understand what it was and how to integrate it into my conscious state, but I didn't let it enter into my physical state. I still carried on as a boy would. I wasn't effeminate outside of my true inner core. I tried to carry on as a male and live and be perceived as a male. I didn't display any sense of femininity whatsoever. I didn't wear girly clothes, though I wished I could, in public. Anytime I did wear a girly outfit was when I was doing it secretly. I was too afraid to get caught, and I was not sure the repercussions if I did get caught. When I was a teenager and I was starting to get near puberty, that was a difficult time for me, both emotionally and physically. I was very depressed, and I realized what I knew basically all along was that I was gonna develop like typical boys. I was gonna grow a mustache. I was gonna deal with facial and body hair. I was gonna have a deep voice, and I was going to grow hair around my anatomy, and I wasn't gonna blossom like the girls were. They were so beautiful and so feminine, and I knew that that wasn't gonna be my situation whatsoever, which made me very depressed, and I just cried. I did a lot of crying throughout my youth. I never did it in front of my family. I grew up with my mom and dad and my two sisters, and we kind of lived, I couldn't really relate to my sisters. I loved them, but we didn't really do a lot together. Sure, we played games and all, but I never told them how I truly felt inside. I didn't feel comfortable. I'm the oldest of the three, and I just felt all alone inside, and I certainly didn't feel comfortable telling my parents, and I didn't tell anybody when I was in school. You know, I did the right things. I gravitated towards boy things in school because that's what I felt I had to do. Basically, I had to pretend, and it was very difficult for me. So when people ask me why am I transitioning from male to female, the answer is very simple. I felt like a girl ever since I could remember. When I was 3 years old, I knew in my heart that I was supposed to be a girl, and I'm just doing what I feel is the natural thing to do. I'm bringing my mind in line with my body now. Transitioning is complicated. I am doing these stages of transition that normal male to female transgender women do. I am doing hormones. I'm on hormone replacement therapy. I take estradiol, 2 milligrams 3 times a day. I take spironolactone, 100 milligrams twice a day. I'm doing electrolysis when I can. That's on and off. But my skin has definitely become much more feminine and softer, and a lot of the hair is gone for the most part. I still have some problem areas, but not nearly what I used to have. And when I can, I will continue back with the electrolysis. I like the woman I see, who I go to. She's really cool, Kim Silver, and she's in Hicksville. I also am doing hormones, electrolysis, therapy. I go to a therapist. I go to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And I am also living full-time as a woman, even though I'm not working. I'm on medical leave, medical disability. so I am not working. So I'm not integrating with other people in a working environment. I've been in hospitals on many occasions for severe depression and suicide ideation, and obviously my gender dysphoria, and I'm making strides in my transition. I also do my hair. I go to a salon, I get highlights, and the girls take good care of me. They make me feel very welcome, and they're very accepting. And I also, not too often, but I've gone to the nail salon to get my nails done. I actually did it for the first time, but I wash dishes a lot, so the nail polish is starting to come off. It lasts about a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky. But the girls are great, and they did a great job, and I was very pleased. And I will go back when I have some money. I love clothes. Shopping is something that I've always enjoyed when I could do it. I'm very much into dresses. I used to wear dresses underneath my male attire when I was working, and I felt very claustrophobic, and I actually hated it. I wanted to wear the dresses, but I had to conceal them, obviously. So I find it quite liberating now when I just wear the dress, and that's why I like to wear dresses, because I don't have to hide like I used to. I'm no longer in the closet. I came full circle from living in the closet to coming out and pronouncing my transgender identity to everyone, basically. Facebook was my venue for doing that, as well as YouTube. I was very encouraged by a lot of transgender girls on YouTube, and I've become friends with a lot of transgender girls on Facebook. And I tried to do my own series of videos sharing my own personal experiences on being transgender and what it's like for me. Hold on. I am very conscious about my son, who's a teenager, and how my transition affects him. Certainly, I am very concerned for his welfare, and that was one of my biggest fears when I decided to come out, was how it would affect him. My son is a teenager, he's autistic. He's 16 now. When I first came out, he was about 14, and it was difficult. But I sat down and had a heart-to-heart conversation with him, and he was pretty comfortable. But initially, when I first started to transition, I would tone down the way I dressed when I was with him and when I was at home. When I went out, I would go out dressed as a woman in dresses, but at home I would tone it down with like slacks and a blouse. And when I went out with my son, I would wear similar slacks and a blouse. And then gradually over time, as he became more accustomed to my situation, I started to break down the barrier and started to wear a dress. And as time went on, he became very okay and accepting with it. And now there's no problem whatsoever. And he goes away to a residential school where he has 24/7 support, and he has counseling, and the school is very aware of my personal situation, and they offer counseling for my son and allow him to express his feelings and thoughts. And he's doing well. He's making a lot of progress, and we are happy for him. And he's also making good friends. And basically, that's all we ever wanted. We want him to be happy and to feel good about himself and to raise his self-esteem. You know, these are issues that I faced when I was growing up also. I had a low self-esteem. I felt very shy and very awkward. I didn't know how to relate to others because I felt so different. You know, sometimes I think being transgender and being autistic is pretty similar, actually. They're totally different, but there are a lot of parallels you can draw from both. I isolated. I never felt comfortable in crowds of people. I had very few friends. I didn't socialize outside of school. I didn't participate often in school. I basically kept to myself, and it was hard, but I felt like, I tried to do my best. Uh, I was struggling, to be honest with you, and I never felt comfortable, and I didn't know how to tell people. I wonder sometimes if I did go for support or counseling at a younger age, if it would have made a difference today. Certainly I'm happy with the way things have turned out. I'm married, I have a son, so I'm certainly happy about that. And I'm at a point now where I feel transitioning is the right thing to do for me, for my own happiness. I'm not doing it selfishly. I'm not doing it to hurt people. I'm just doing what I felt I should be doing all along. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You live life, you only get one chance at life, and I feel you may as well be happy. What's the point if you're miserable? There's so much to enjoy in life, and you have to try to do the best you can. There's nothing wrong with being transgender. I've come to accept my situation, and I've met many transgender people, both young and old, and we have a bond. We know what it's like, and it's important to have those relationships. These are relationships that are important because people who are considered normal don't understand where we come from, where we're coming from, and it's very hard to explain to them because a lot of people are ignorant. They prejudge us. But I've been fortunate. I have a lot of friends who are supportive. And I also lost friends that I thought would be supportive, which surprised me. But, you have to just be truthful to who you are. And you can't let others judge you or tell you how to live your life. Ultimately, you have to make that decision. And you have to live by that. And you have to do the right thing. And for me, transitioning was the right thing. I weighed the pros and cons. I sat down, and when I started seeing a doctor, I went to Callan-Wood, and I told my doctor what my situation was. She understood, and she said she would help me, and I told her I wanted to go on hormone replacement therapy, and she said, "Not right now, hon. You have to still go through a probationary period. I have to evaluate you." And then after 3 months, as she promised, she felt that I was fine to do the HRT, and she started me on my regimen of estradiol and spironolactone, which I've been taking now for about 2.5 years. and I find that it has helped me tremendously. It's helped me in how I feel. It's helped me in my appearance, in making me feel more comfortable. I certainly feel more feminized, and I'm much happier. And people think that I'm a girl when I go out. The only thing I struggle with is my voice. I'm very self-conscious about that. So I try to speak as low as possible. Uh, it's not easy to speak in a feminine voice. You have to retrain your voice. And I've watched YouTube videos with other trans girls and women who kind of give you pointers and tips on how they develop their voice to sound feminine. And it's amazing how they do sound so feminine and beautiful. And a lot of the transgender girls are gorgeous. And I'm quite envious and amazed at how beautiful they've transitioned. And I only wish that I could transition as beautifully as they have. But I have to be happy with my own transition, the way it's going, and live with that, and just, be grateful that I am on the right road now, and transitioning for me is very important. It's something that I knew I had to do, and I think it's very beneficial for me from a psychological point of view and from a physical point of view. Certainly I welcome the opportunity of sex reassignment surgery or gender reassignment surgery, but I don't know if that will happen in the immediate future. I certainly hope so. I definitely have my doctor in mind who I would love to have the surgery performed by, Dr. Marcy Bowers, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and I sometimes post to her page. She's very sweet and very open, and she doesn't make any judgments. Uh, you know, she's got dedicated staff who are very helpful. I'm just trying to, work with my therapist and my psychiatrist now, and hope that eventually they will help me with the letters that I need to support me in going further in my transition with surgery. It's a long road. I've been traveling since age 3. I'm now 54, so we're talking over 50 years, and my transition will be ever evolving. It'll be for the rest of my life, and I will just do what I need to do, and I will still be there for my son. I will still be his dad, even though I'm transitioning from male to female, and I will be the best that I can be, and I'm just trying to find my happiness. Certainly it's better than being depressed and feeling isolated